Today, I messed up by secretly eating mushrooms while my wife was asleep in a house full of cats. This happened a long time ago, not today. It was April when I started this journey. During the winter, I became a member of a magic mushroom internet forum and was learning all I could about growing magic mushrooms. I had tried mushrooms once before and grew only a yellowish-green mushroom that smelled like sweaty socks, but this time would be different. I had a spore print sent to me, and I was ready to get started. I had tried mushrooms once about 10 years prior, and the experience was rather enjoyable. I have had too many bad experiences with LSD to ever think about trying it again, and from what I remembered, the mushroom experience was much less chaotic and harsh for me than the majority of my LSD trips had been. After following every tip I could gather and waiting about a month and a half, I had viable mushrooms drying in the food dehydrator. The whole process, from spore print to fruit, was done for reasons I don't yet fully understand. I was thinking at the time that growing them would give some spiritual meaning to my experience. It had been a long time since I had taken any illegal substance, and I wanted it to be special in some way. Growing them myself was an attempt to create that special experience, I guess. The night I took them, I wasn't really planning to do so. I was extremely bored and chatting with online friends. I told them I was going to eat my mushrooms, but didn't know how much to eat without a scale. I took a few pictures of my intended dose and posted them, immediately getting advice to cut that dose in half. So with my wife asleep, I went down to the kitchen and made a drink of purple slushy and powdered mushrooms and gulped it down. I came back and told my online chatters that I had taken the mushrooms and was going to take a shower before the effects started. In the shower, about 5 minutes later, I felt a rush like my consciousness was being pulled away from my body. I was fighting to keep it with me. It felt as though if I had let it go, I would have had a full out-of-body experience, but for some reason I felt compelled to hold on to it. I quickly turned off the water and looked down at my feet. They seemed miles away. That's when I realized the mushrooms were kicking in. Out of the shower, I put on the same clothes and headed upstairs. The shower is in the basement, and there is a door at the top of the stairs. Opening the door, the light from the kitchen blasted my eyes, and I got a sense of how far into the experience I was. I noticed the kitchen floor looked smooth and liquid-like, but before I could look around more, my black cat ran down to the basement. I didn't want to forget about him down there. I never considered I could just leave the door open for any cats that wandered down to come back up after my trip was over. I walked down the stairs after him and picked him up, starting back up when a brown blur flew down past me as another cat dove to the basement. I tossed the black cat into the kitchen and went after the brown one. As I was picking up the brown cat, the black one came back down the steps, so I grabbed him too. Now I was carrying 2 cats up the stairs. At the top of the stairs, the door was wide open. I saw our other 3 cats had come to investigate. As I made the final push to the top, they jumped into action as if they had planned it. I started laughing hysterically, let the cats go, and sat on the top step as I watched the cats all bounce back down the stairs. I found the whole situation very amusing. Here I was, coming up hard on mushrooms. I could feel the confusion building every second. And now I had to figure out a way to get all 5 cats out of the basement. As quickly as I came up with plan A, it failed. Cats have names, right? I decided I would count the cats as I brought them up and remember each cat's name so I didn't lose track like last time. Brilliant. I went back down and grabbed Funchy, the black one, taking him upstairs. He tried to run back down, and I pushed him back, closing the door. At this point, my mind was getting worn out. Things were moving a lot, and the walls were waving. It was almost impossible to focus on the task at hand. Those 2 things, along with the fact that the time dilation was making the last 5 minutes of chasing cats feel like hours, was about as much as my brain could handle in its current state. I kept going, trying to complete the task, and grabbed another cat. But at the top of the stairs, I had already forgotten where I was in the order. I put that cat upstairs and tried to count how many were left, Of course, they weren't in the kitchen anymore, and again I forgot that I could just keep bringing up cats until I ran out down there. Unable to think beyond the current situation, I frantically looked around upstairs for the cats I had already brought up, but they were gone. My mind raced to find a solution to this impossible problem, never once thinking of just leaving the rest downstairs until they got bored. I was done. I needed help. It was 2 or 3 a.m. and my wife had to work in the morning, but I had no choice. I had to wake her up. She would make it all better. She would tame those crazy cats and everything would be okay. But it wasn't okay. I went upstairs to our room and woke her as gently as I could, which meant jumping on the bed yelling help. I took mushrooms. 5 cats in the basement, and I can only count to 4. Not as graceful as I had pictured it, but I was happy to get that much out without forgetting why I woke her. Sleepily, she marched downstairs, and I led her to the kitchen, where the basement door was still open. All I could do was stand there whimpering and pointing down the stairs. She was not happy. I thought she would finally solve this for me, but instead my savior turned tormentor, saying the only words that could crush me even more. Well, go get them. She didn't understand that I had been fighting this for what felt like ages and just wanted to curl up and cry myself to sleep. She had no idea how close I was to a breakdown. Tears welled up as I crossed the basement threshold again, descending into my own personal hell. I picked up a kitty, carrying it slowly upstairs and setting it on the kitchen floor. 1. My wife said in a long, drawn-out voice, like she was talking to a toddler. Each trip grew more difficult as she shamed me with her counting. By the 3rd cat, short whimpering sounds were coming from me. My wife had begun laughing at me, seeming to laugh harder each time I emerged even more beaten. When I brought up the last cat, she just sighed 5 and said, "Well, that wasn't so hard, was it?" I tried to apologize, but she dismissed me with a stern, "We'll talk about this in the morning," and went back to bed. The cat ordeal was over, but the mushroom trip continued. I was very grateful to my online buddies who had convinced me to halve the dose, because the rest of the night was filled with confusion, mind tricks, and intense time dilation. Not a completely bad trip, but not enjoyable either. I think I can cross mushrooms off the list of potential boredom relievers. I won't be doing them again anytime soon, that's for sure. In summary, I ate magic mushrooms for the first time in years and chased cats out of the basement all night until I gave up and got my wife to handle the animals.